Imagine a courtroom so silent, you could hear the echo of a pen dropping on the wooden floor. A federal judge, with decades of authority carved into every wrinkle of his face, leans forward and declares, "Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket, you will be fined." The words hang in the air like a thunderclap. Porters scribble furiously. Cameras flash. Political pundits already prepare their headlines, "Crocket in trouble." But then, something happens that nobody in that courtroom expected. Instead of shrinking back, instead of panicking, Jasmine Crocket rises from her chair, adjusts her blazer, and begins to speak. Her voice, calm, steady, unshaken, cuts through the heavy silence. Within minutes, the entire courtroom is hanging on her every word. The same judge who had just tried to put her down now looks unsettled. Even seasoned lawyers glance at each other, whispering under their breath, "She's really good." What started as a fine meant to embarrass her quickly turns into a masterclass of legal genius that leaves the courtroom absolutely stunned. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it happened. To understand the weight of that courtroom showdown, we need to know who Jasmine Crocket really is, and why this moment was about much more than just a fine. Jasmine Crocket is not just any politician. She is a U.S. Congresswoman representing Texas's 30th Congressional District, a district rooted in history, culture, and resilience. Before she stepped into the halls of Congress, she had already built her reputation as a civil rights attorney, a fighter who never shied away from taking on tough cases, especially those where injustice was involved. Her journey wasn't paved with privilege. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, Crockett grew up seeing firsthand what inequality looked like. Instead of turning away, she chose to confront it head-on. She studied law, sharpened her skills, and quickly became known for her relentless spirit in defending the voiceless. Her reputation: fearless, uncompromising, relentless in the face of power. So when she entered politics, she carried that same fire with her. On Capitol Hill, she has been outspoken, sometimes fiery, always sharp in issues ranging from voting rights, social justice, and political accountability. That voice has made her a target for critics, especially those who underestimate her because she's a young black woman in a chamber often dominated by older men. And that's exactly what made this case so explosive. The fine the judge slapped on her wasn't just about courtroom procedure. No, it was loaded with symbolism. It was about power, authority, and intimidation. A message: stay in your lane. But Jasmine Crocket doesn't take messages like that quietly. The courtroom that day wasn't just a legal space, it became a stage where America watched a rising political figure prove that her sharp legal mind could outmatch even the most seasoned judges. And as we peel back the layers of what happened inside that courtroom, you'll see why this moment might go down as one of the most unforgettable displays of courage and legal brilliance in recent history. The gavel strikes. Bang. Silence falls across the grand courtroom. All eyes fix on Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket. The judge's voice, sharp and unwavering, cuts through the air. This court cannot allow symbols that undermine its neutrality. You will be fined for wearing that cross. Gasps ripple across the room. Some whisper in disbelief. Others lean forward, eager to witness what might unfold next. Crocket, however, does not flinch. She does not rush to remove the necklace, nor does she crumble under the weight of the fine. Instead, her calm smile tells the entire courtroom one thing: she is not afraid. The tension is thick enough to choke on. Supporters shift uncomfortably in their seats, watching this extraordinary clash of faith and law. Opponents smirk, convinced the fine will humiliate her. Yet Jasmine's silence speaks louder than their noise. Her confidence is unsettling. It feels as though she was expecting this moment, prepared for it. The judge straightens his robe, perhaps expecting Crocket to apologize, or at least show hesitation. But she does neither. She stands tall, her cross glinting in the courtroom lights, as though daring anyone to challenge not just her jewelry, but the values it represents. And that's when the energy in the room shifts. People begin to sense it. The judge may have struck first, but Crocket isn't finished, not even close. The fine was meant to silence her. Dead. It has lit the spark for a legal showdown no one in that courtroom will forget. What will Jasmine Crocket do next? How can she turn a punishment into power? The judge leans back, satisfied, at least for now. He thinks the fine has settled the matter. But then, Jasmine Crocket slowly rises from her chair. She does not raise her voice. She does not shout. Instead, she begins with calm, razor-sharp words that cut deeper than anger ever could. "Your Honor," she says, her tone steady, "you may fine me. You may even attempt to silence me. But what you cannot do is erase the Constitution of the United States." The courtroom freezes. Every spectator, journalists, lawyers, even the bailiff sits in stunned silence. The judge blinks, suddenly unsure. Jasmine continues. "This cross is not a weapon. It is not propaganda. It is a symbol of my faith that the very laws you enforce claim to protect. If you punish me for this, you are not upholding neutrality. You are breaking it." Whispers ripple across the benches. Some nod in agreement. Others nervously avoid eye contact with the furious judge. Cameras click, capturing every second of this historic confrontation. Jasmine steps closer to the bench, her cross glimmering under the courtroom lights. Her words grow sharper, more powerful. "You can fine me. You can threaten me. But what message does that send to every believer in this country? That their faith must stay hidden? Their voice must be punished if it dares to shine?" The judge grips his gavel, his face red, but it's clear the power in the room is no longer his. The balance has shifted. Crockett's calm defiance has turned the fine into a spotlight, exposing the system for all to see. The courtroom is on edge. Will the judge strike back harder, or has Jasmine just forced him into a corner he cannot escape? The judge slams his gavel so hard that the crack echoes like thunder. His face burns red, his hands tremble with rage. "Enough. This is my courtroom," he bellows, spittle flying from his lips. But no matter how loud he shouts, his authority feels hollow. Everyone in the room can sense it. Jasmine remains standing, calm and unshaken. She folds her hands gently in front of her, her cross catching the light. She doesn't need to argue anymore. Her silence speaks louder than his rage. The judge's voice grows wilder, desperate. "You will pay every cent of that fine. You will not speak of faith in my court. Do you hear me?" He pounds the gavel again until the wood chips splinter and the courtroom gasps. Reporters scribble furiously. Cameras flash like lightning, and murmurs spread through the crowd. What began as a punishment against Jasmine is now flipped. The judge looks unhinged, unstable. It's almost dangerous. Jasmine finally tilts her head slightly, her voice soft but devastating. "Your Honor, you are proving my point better than I ever could." Those words slice through the tension. The audience erupts, some gasp. Others clap before quickly being silenced. The judge's jaw quivers, his eyes wide. For the first time, he realizes the truth. He has lost control not just of the courtroom, but of the narrative itself. With the judge unraveling in public and Jasmine standing tall, the question hangs heavy: will the system protect him, or will this moment mark the beginning of his downfall? As Jasmine walks calmly out of the courtroom, cameras flash wildly, each shot capturing the striking contrast or quiet dignity against his furious meltdown. Reporters rush forward, microphones in hand, shouting questions. "Congresswoman, do you think the judge is biased? Is today proof of corruption in the courts?" But Jasmine doesn't need to say much. She simply smiles, places a hand on her chest, and whispers, "The truth always defends itself." Within hours, the footage spreads like wildfire across news channels and social media. Clips of the judge slamming his gavel, screaming uncontrollably, and Jasmine's calm, unshakable stance loop endlessly. Commentators dissect every second. This was a complete loss of composure from a senior judge. It looked less like justice and more like a tantrum. Jasmine Crocket exposed him without lifting her voice. Online, the public reaction is explosive. Hashtags trend worldwide, hashtag Crocket.com, hashtag Gavelgate, hashtag Truth in Court. Memes flood Twitter and TikTok. One shows the judge's gavel shattering with the caption, "When ego breaks before the wood does." Meanwhile, protesters gather outside the courthouse with signs reading, "Justice shouldn't scream," and "We stand with Jasmine." The once respected judge, known for his long career, suddenly finds his reputation hanging by a thread. Behind closed doors, whispers spread through the legal community. Colleagues question whether he is still fit to preside. Senators hint at possible investigations. What was meant to be Jasmine's humiliation has turned into the judge's greatest scandal. The nation is watching. Will the system protect one? Of its own, will Jasmine's calm resistance spark the accountability no one thought possible? The silence inside the courtroom was heavy. You could almost feel the air tighten as Jasmine Crocket rose to her feet. Just moments ago, the judge had imposed the fine over the cross necklace resting on her chest, a move many thought would shake her confidence. But instead, something remarkable happened. Jasmine didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She didn't even show anger. Instead, she calmly adjusted her cross necklace, looked straight at the judge, and began speaking with a voice that carried both steel and grace. Her words were not just a defense, they were a masterclass in law and history. She reminded the courtroom that America was founded on freedom of belief, that the very Constitution the judge had sworn to uphold protected her right to wear her cross. And then, in a way that stunned even her critics, she drew a direct line between her case and landmark rulings from the Supreme Court, quoting them with precision. One by one, she dismantled every argument against her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every sentence was like a strike of lightning, leaving the judge and prosecutors scrambling for cover. The jurors leaned in closer. The audience held their breath. Even reporters, who had come expecting drama, now found themselves scribbling furiously, trying to capture every word of her extraordinary defense. The very thing that was meant to humiliate her, the fine, the cross, had turned into her weapon. And in that moment, the courtroom began to shift. What was supposed to be her downfall became her defining moment. The judge sat back in his chair, his expression dark but uneasy, had underestimated her. And the entire courtroom knew it. Within minutes of the courtroom drama, clips of JasmineCrockets.com, precise and fearless defense began circulating online. Social media erupted. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere. People were talking about the confrontation. Hashtags, like hashtag Crocket.com, hashtag Justice for Faith, and hashtag Gavelgate trended nationally. Memes comparing the judge's anger to Jasmine's composure went viral. Influencers, journalists, and ordinary citizens weighed in. She didn't just win in court, she won in history, tweeted one lawyer. That's how you defend your beliefs with dignity, wrote another. News outlets dissected every moment. The gavel slammed, the fine imposed. The judge's growing frustration and Jasmine's calm, unwavering responses. Interviews streamed live with legal analysts explaining why her defense was not only brilliant but historic. The ripple effect was undeniable. Politicians began praising her courage. Clergy and faith communities highlighted her right to openly express her beliefs. Ordinary Americans, especially those who felt marginalized, shared how her poise inspired them to stand tall in their own lives. Even inside Congress, whispers grew into conversations. Colleagues recognized that this was more than just a courtroom victory. It was a cultural moment. A young black congresswoman had taken a small fine and turned it into a national lesson about rights, dignity, and courage. The judge, once confident in his authority, now faced scrutiny not only from the public, but from peers who questioned his judgment. What had been a minor disciplinary action against Jasmine had become a powerful symbol of resistance, intellect and composure in the face of intimidation. With the nation watching and the courtroom legacy at stake, how would Jasmine turn this moment into a lasting statement about justice and courage? As the echoes of the courtroom settled, one thing became clear. Jasmine Crocket had not just defended herself, she had defended a principle far greater than any individual fine. Her calm courage and unwavering composure had transformed a moment of punishment into a powerful lesson about dignity, faith, and the law. Across the country, people reflected on what they had just witnessed. Ordinary citizens, lawyers, students, and even politicians began to discuss not just the outcome, but the way it was achieved. Jasmine had shown that true power does not always roar. Sometimes it stands silently, firmly, and wisely. Her victory wasn't about defeating one judge. Was about reminding America that the Constitution protects everyone equally, that faith and justice can coexist, and that no act of intimidation can suppress truth when met with intellect and poise. For young Americans, especially those who often feel overlooked or underestimated, Jasmine's example became a beacon. She proved that courage is not measured by loudness or aggression, but by steadfast commitment to principles. Even when the stakes are highest, as the courtroom emptied and the media frenzy continued, one image remained seared into public memory. Jasmine Crocket, standing tall, cross on her chest, calm smile on her face, facing an angry system with nothing but truth and law as her shield. This moment will not be forgotten. It will be shared, remembered, and cited for years to come, as a testament to the enduring power of integrity, courage, and unwavering belief in justice. In life, authority and intimidation may confront us, but standing firm with dignity and intellect can turn even the harshest challenges into a legacy that inspires millions. And so, the courtroom showdown comes to a close. But the impact of Jasmine Crockett's actions reverberates far beyond those walls. What began as a fine over a simple cross became a national lesson in courage, dignity, and the unshakable power of truth. As you reflect on this story, ask yourself, how do you face authority, intimidation, or moments that test your own principles? Jasmine's example shows that staying calm, informed, and courageous can turn what seems like a setback into an unforgettable victory. If her story inspired you, remember that courage is contagious. Share this video with others, spark conversations about justice, faith, and integrity, and let these lessons ripple through your own community. Subscribe to stay connected with stories that shine a light on resilience, intellect, and the power of standing firm when it matters most. Because sometimes, all it takes is one calm, unwavering voice to challenge the world and leave it stunned.